Well, welcome back to Counterculture. I'm here. I want to say so badly, I'm here with Pastor, and then in quotes, Wild Thing, Mark Adams.
Where the wild things go. What's that book?
Where the wild things grow.
Where the wild things
what is it?
grow. Yeah.
It's a book. Yeah,
Yes, that's my biography. Yeah, that was me. All right.
Ooh. We're gonna have to do a new show down here. We got several for you. One's gonna debut in a little bit. We're gonna have a Pastor Mark special. See, these are fantastic,
yeah.
right? Mark specials.
Do you remember the old specials they had years ago? It'd be like John Davidson Christmas show.
Yeah,
Those were great shows. The Osmond Christmas show or Perry
doing.
Como's. Those were great.
We're gonna do Drash Ministry, special shows. But we need you to do like a story time with Pastor Mark. That would be fantastic, and you can just give some of these stories, some of the meaning behind some of these jokes that you and Pastor Mel do. We could invite Pastor Mel to sit, and you could enlighten him.
And the funny part is when I have to explain jokes to him because he
People
doesn't
know.
get jokes. Mel does not get
They
jokes.
would get an inside look at what happens down here.
Yeah,
on a regular
right.
basis.
Yeah, there you
We
go.
got to do this.
That's it.
All right. Well, that would definitely. This is going to be covered.
Without further ado,
Revelation chapter 1. I want to focus on one verse. One verse. And then maybe we'll do some more out of this at a different time. But could you please read verse 9 for me?
I, John, your brother and companion in suffering and kingdom, let me start over. I, John, your brother and companion in the suffering and kingdom and patient endurance that are ours in Jesus, was on the island of Patmos because of the word of God and the testimony of Jesus.
All right, so I find this entire verse to be rather fascinating because we live in a church culture. Let's start at the back end first. We live in a church culture that tells you would never, if you are just being obedient and you are loving Jesus, you will never find yourself on the island of Patmos, right? So what exactly?
And alas, John did.
Right, and so John did, and John was the one that Jesus loved. Mm-hmm. So the one that Jesus loved found himself on the island of Patmos. Most Christian people have no idea what the island of Patmos even means. So why don't you start there? Where did John find himself?
On Alcatraz of sorts.
Yep.
Or the Chateau d'If, if you were familiar with the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yes.
It was a kind of a remote little island so that he was put out there, and there. Baxter Kruger wrote a really good book on this idea of John out there and how John. It's really cool. Plug for Baxter Kruger on that book. It kind of gets into theology a little bit with it and stuff. So, but yeah, it was a place where they would send you in exile, and you were kind of you had to watch out a little bit because they did have Roman patrols running around, is my understanding. But for the most part, it's like you're out there on your own, and good luck.
Yeah,
we don't want you influencing anybody else anymore.
You're right. You were exiled. The way to shut you up.
Yes.
We can't kill you, so we'll put you out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Again,
solitary confinement.
That is a concept that people just cannot even imagine today. Counterculture.
Yeah.
That God would never ever do that to somebody. Mm-hmm. Yet He did that to the disciple that Jesus loved.
Yes.
Right. But then to add on to that, if we go back to the beginning, John says, "Hey, I'm a brother and a fellow, right, servant in 3 different areas, right? Mm-hmm. What are those 3 areas?
Suffering, kingdom, and patient endurance."
All right. Now,
did I get that right?
You did great. You did so
Alex, 500 for... I don't know how to do it. Anyway, you know what I mean. Yeah. Okay. I'll take 500 for quotes from John.
Island of Patmos.
Island of Patmos. There you go. Okay. Yeah. Suffering, kingdom, and patient endurance.
Yeah. So again, we could drop this right here. We could just end this. That could be a mic drop.
Mic drop.
Counterculturalishness tells us those 3 things are not popular in the current church.
Nope.
So why, pray tell, are they not popular today in the church?
Well, I'm guessing they weren't real popular then either. I don't know that suffering has ever been popular. Well, it's popular with you because your favorite torture is to be put in a barrel with swords ran through you. So I mean,
It's something
you
that I
might.
think about.
Yeah, no wonder you like this verse. You
That's
know,
right. Medieval.
how medieval. Patient endurance. Patience is not a virtue in our society today. We want instant pain relief. We want our food immediately. We don't want to wait at a light. I've been where I've seen people just run. I've done it myself actually. I got tired of waiting for a light and I went. You know, we don't want to wait. And so patient and endure something.
Yeah.
Why should I have to endure anything? You talk about culture. That's our culture today.
Yep.
Is I don't want to have, and kingdom, the only kingdom that matters is my own.
So
Okay.
take me through again, because I love the summary that you just did. Right? Should the average Christian today expect to have to suffer for the cause of Christ?
They might want to get ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, you're asking. I think some of them don't have to worry about it because they don't open their mouth to witness for the Lord.
So they're not persecutable.
They're not persecuted because no one knows there's anything to persecute.
So that if you're not receiving, would it be fair to say if you are a Christian and you are not and have not ever experienced any kind of persecution, that you probably are not putting yourself in a place, in a position to be persecuted?
I think that's correct. And it may not be getting exiled to the island of Patmos. It may not be being, fed to the lions or anything like that. But you suffering some sort of persecution in the sense of maybe you were passed over for a promotion, or they didn't want you because you were a Christian. They were afraid you were going to. If you're a pastor, it could be a form of persecution. Well, we don't want to go to your church anymore. I never thought about that one, but we don't like what you're preaching. That could be a form of persecution. It's interesting concept. So,
well, I think again this idea that we have a lot of churches today teaching you should not anticipate persecution or suffering or tribulation, right? Because you're not even going to be around for the tribulation. But you should not anticipate those things if you are a follower of Jesus. The whole point of God is to go ahead of you and smooth out all the rough areas, right? To make it smooth sailing, right? Give you everything that you need. But that's not what I have found my life to be. So is it that I am not living the right Christian life, that I am experiencing suffering and persecution?
So if I want to make sure I heard you correctly, because you said a lot there. So you're putting forth, if I'm not receiving persecution, then I must be doing something right. Is that what you said? Did I hear you right?
Am I doing something wrong because I am being persecuted as a Christian?
Right. Because we have been so I just talked about this last night in a Bible study. When Jesus says, "Don't babble on like the pagans and pray like pagans," and so there's. I wish I had my notes with me because it was really good, but I'll try and recap what I can. What was going on when Jesus was teaching on the Sermon on the Mount was there was pagan ideas that were infiltrating the church. That doesn't happen today.
Wink, wink.
And one of the things was, and we believe this, that if you have something bad going on in your life, or things are going wrong, you must have sin in your life.
Right.
Or you're not doing something right.
Cause and effect. Yep.
Cause and effect. And if things are going really well, you must be doing something right. And those are pagan ideas that they put on God, as not just on prayer, but they put it on God.
Yeah.
Because then the next thing is, well, prayer is, the pagan way of praying was, well, I'm trying to appease God, flatter God, or bribe and manipulate God.
Yep.
And we don't do that today.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Yeah. So, this idea that, well, if I do things right, and I follow. Okay, so if something else that the Lord gave me this week is from Exodus 15, and God says to Moses, if you guys will follow me and do what I tell you to do, I won't let the diseases that are coming upon the Egyptians hit you guys. So you could take that and say, well, if I have a disease, then I must not be following Christ.
Yep.
And so we look for that cause and effect, and we forget though that the rain falls on the just and the unjust. Because there's no such thing as a normal life, Wyatt. There's just life. Doc Holliday.
I love what you just said, right? Because it answers a question. What God specifically said was for a specific moment with the Israelites. Hey, if you don't want the same things that the Egyptians have, then you need to follow me.
Do what I say. The Egyptians aren't following me, so don't. Yeah.
And I think that there are times where God says specifically, hey, here's the cause, here's the effect, right?
Yeah.
But throughout our life, right, our regular, normal, everyday life, if we're living a Christ-centered, Christ-filled life, we should anticipate some persecution and some stuff. We're going to have
if
to.
If they hated him, Jesus' own words, if they hated me, they will hate you.
Yeah.
In this life, you will have trouble. Be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. I think I'm going to probably make some people mad here. I think that's why some people want the pre-trib rapture theology to be true.
Yep.
Not because that whether it's true or not. They want it to be true because they don't want to go through the tribulation.
Right. So here's my
question. What if we're already going through it? So that'd be our post people would say, well, we're already going through it. And in some cases, talk to the Uyghurs over in Asia.
Yeah,
they're already going through it. Ask the people who are in other countries in the Middle East and in Africa and other places where they're already being persecuted. Go to England. There's already Christians being thrown in jail. How about just go north where Christians are being thrown in jail because of certain things? Okay.
Ooh. All right. Listen, I want to leave it right here because I got a question that goes in with the second part. So there's 3 parts of this. We talked about the whole suffering part.
Suffering,
right?
yeah.
Which is really important. So
like they're doing right now, suffering through this.
So the question for those of you who have suffered through this is, listen, are you living a life that makes you persecutable? Like you are able to be persecuted for the cause of Christ. It's a really simple question. Chew on that. We're going to come back next time with a question for Pastor Mark that fits in to the second part of that verse. We'll see you next time.
Grace and peace.